Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about the mindset shifts I've made as I've built my wealth to $6 million plus over the past 12, 13 years. So when I grew up, my parents immigrated here from Vietnam. Money was not abundant, but not scarce. I would say I was comfortably middle class. Maybe my parents were good at hiding it, but I felt like I never struggled financially. I had food on the table. I had a roof over my head. If I wanted to do something and I asked for it, they would, cover it. So money wasn't really stressful for me, but maybe my parents were just good at hiding it, as all, Asian American parents are. So money wasn't really, I guess, a stressor, at least to me, but I grew up with a very scarce / saving mindset, which is maybe what I picked up from my parents, right? A lot of things that you pick up as an adult, as a kid, are caught, not taught. And it's really, really interesting, the things you pick up from your parents, even though they don't say anything. So probably my parents were being scarce of money, which makes sense, especially where they came from. They immigrated from Vietnam. So I probably inherited a saver's mentality and a little bit of scarcity in terms of money. So for me, the first thing I had to learn was that, money is abundant. And it kind of sounds redundant and kind of woo-woo, but the moment I kind of thought money was abundant, and it took me until I was probably 23 years old, making my first salary as a pharmacist, making six figures. And at that point, I really just wanted to check to make sure that it was okay. So, in terms of abundance, I made six figures and I just said, okay, well, I cover my basic needs. I wasn't super extravagant. Like I said, I was a saver that I picked up from my parents. But once I started thinking more abundantly, I kind of just knew that, okay, if I put money into a 401k, I could live off the money that I made, and that I knew I can make more money if needed. I just can pick up more shifts. I can work, overtime. I can work per diem. So I just knew that if I was feeling tight on money, I could find another job, work overtime, and make more money. So I didn't mind taking the risk of maxing out my 401k, maxing out my IRA. I tried doing individual stocks and ended up losing money on individual stocks. So, but that mindset started to change a little bit from a saver over to an investor, and taking some more calculated risk and knowing that I could invest this money, I could lose the money and still be okay. So that's how I kind of changed my mindset. But I could only invest because I knew how to save. If I just spent all my money, then I'd have no money left over that I could invest. So that's the trap that a lot of people fall into. A lot of pharmacists, they make 150, 160K. They're living paycheck to paycheck because they're spending all their money. So my unfair advantage was that I grew up with this saver's mentality, probably due to observing scarcity from my parents. And that translated to me to be able to save money, not spending a lot, and having leftover that I could invest. And then once I could take those risks to invest, that's when I built more and more wealth. So that was my first thing. So the first step, if I were to summarize, is learning to be a saver, and then take the difference that you can invest. So you can invest in assets, ideally cash flowing assets. So whether that's dividend stocks like index funds, like the Vanguard index funds, the S&P 500 index funds, whether that's Apple stocks, which pay dividends, whether that's, even sitting in your bank account, you get dividends. You can buy bonds that pay dividends, or just whatever that pays money over time and it compounds over time. So that's kind of the first change I made. So now money is starting to work for me. And that's kind of the second thing I learned about money is you want money to work for you. You don't want to work for money. So when I work at W-2, I get paid an hourly rate. So it doesn't matter how many hours I work. I'm salary, to be honest. So it doesn't matter if I work 1 hour in a day or 10 hours in a day. I get paid my same daily salary. If I'm an hourly employee, it doesn't matter. The more I work, the more money I can make, but there's only 24 hours in a day. And it's not healthy or sustainable to work 24 hours. So if, let's just say you're making 20 bucks an hour, it doesn't matter how many hours you work, you get 20 bucks an hour, maybe some overtime, time and a half, 30 bucks an hour. You're kind of capped, and it's dependent on you being there, you putting in your time and your energy and your effort, and then having an employer that has the opportunity. So once I kind of like thought, I always kind of thought like, I wasn't always big on like doing overtime or picking extra shifts because I enjoyed my time off, but I was more interested in like learning how to invest so that I had my money work for me. So initially, like I said, it was just all 401k. It was all IRA. It was all brokerage through Vanguard index funds. So I would buy the total U.S. stock market, the total bond market, the total international market, have 65% or 70% go to total U.S., 25% went to international, and 5% went to bonds. And I just automate it and I forget it. So that's all I really did. And the dividends come quarterly, come monthly, I'd reinvest it. So now money's starting to work for me. So I'm working for money, and I'm investing my money and deploying my money as little soldiers that are working and making more money for me, and it compounds over time. So when I kind of learned that concept, you have to have your money work for you. You don't work for money. So I know there's a lot of traps, especially in pharmacists. They just pick up a lot of overtime, a lot of extra shifts. It's great, but you have to be able to divorce yourself of spending your time for money. And it got even crazier for me when I started to learn to invest in real estate. So as I've mentioned in many videos, I started house hacking. And this is the greatest way to get started in real estate. You can put 10% down, 5% down, 3.5% down, assuming you have a good W-2 income, good debt to income ratio, good credit score. So you have to talk to a loan officer, US bank, any bank, to figure out what you qualify for. So you get your 10% down, you buy a single family home, a duplex, triplex, fourplex, ideally a fourplex. You put 10% down, you live in one unit, you rent out the other units. And then hopefully the rental income you get from those other units at least covers your mortgage to reduce your living expense so that you pay property tax, you pay insurance, you pay utilities, or whatever the difference is, and you get to reduce your cost of living, also learning to be a landlord. And if you can't get a fourplex, triplex, duplex, then do a regular single family home, live in the master bedroom, rent out the other rooms. That's what I did. You lose privacy, yes. It's inconvenient, yes, but it's a way to get more money, an income stream, and lower your expense. So your expenses are lower, you have more money that you save, more money that you can invest. And what's nice is when I learned to be a landlord, I ended up moving out of that house into another house hack. I rented out the first house I was in. I was cash flow negative, actually, like $500 a month. But if you factor in principal pay down, it was break even. But overall net, it was negative $500 a month that I had to put into my property. So it's a forced savings. But over time, it appreciated from 800K is what I bought it at in 2017. Now it's worth $1.4 million. So it appreciated $600,000 over a few years. And I have principal pay down. I have the same tenant. So if you factored all my equity, I have $800,000 equity in there. And this property rents out for $4,000 a month, which is like almost $50K a year. So this money that I'm getting $50K a year, times that by like 6 years, that's $300,000 that I just generated regardless of my time, the same tenant that's living there. Yes, I have to deal with maintenance requests. Yes, if they move out, I have to clean up the property and then relist it. If I want to sell it, I have to move out the tenant, clean up the property, list it. But I've made about $800,000 between my market appreciation, between principal pay down, and now if I were to sell this property, I can take my $800,000 of equity, let's say after tax is $700,000 and depreciation recapture $700K. I can take that and almost pay off my primary residence. And I did absolutely nothing. That's crazy, right? Like my loan on my current primary is $850. So if I have $750, that's most of it. I probably have to put in some money to pay it off. But I was telling my wife, Christine, this yesterday that, wow, like people worked 30 years to pay off their mortgage without extra payments. And if you factor in interest and principal, you're almost paying double. So if you're borrowing like $850, you're basically paying double that. So you're going to pay, $1.7 million because there's interest, roughly. This is give or take. But roughly double is what you're going to pay total. But I literally made, let's say, $700,000 after depreciation recapture, after tax, that I can use to pay off my primary residence. And I did absolutely nothing. I rented out to the same tenant that I've screened in 2019. All I've done is collect the rents and gradually increase the rents, every 2 years. And if they have an issue, I just put in like service request to handyman. That's all I did. And I made $800,000 doing that. Versus I work at W2. I work my butt off, 40, 50-hour weeks. And, at most I'll maybe take home like $150K after taxes and all that stuff. So I basically made like 6 years of work through real estate doing nothing. And then you multiply this to multiple real estate assets, right? I bought my second house hack. I lived in there, once again, 10% down, and rented out the rooms. And when I moved out of the house, I rented out to the same tenants that they're still there today. And once again, the property went up in value. I have the same tenants. I'm cash flowing. I have principal pay down. So this one built up like $500,000 of equity. Now, if I were to sell it, maybe I'd take home $400,000, and I can take that to pay off other assets. So you have to find ways to invest in assets where money works for you. So I chose that to be index funds. I chose that to be single family real estate. And then I chose that to be multifamily real estate. And now things start to compound. So now I haven't done the math in a while, but I think I'm like 45 to 50K a month gross in rental income. So let's just do 50K because it's easy math. Times that by 12, that's $600,000 of gross rental income that I'm making, which is 3x my job. And I'm spending maybe 4 hours a month managing my real estate portfolio. And this is just the gross income. This is not factoring in all the forced appreciation I've had from each property. And on average, my apartments, my 26 unit, I've made $800,000 of forced appreciation on that property. My 20 unit, I've probably made about $300,000, $400,000 of forced appreciation on that property. That's already $1.2 million of forced appreciation on just my apartments. If you factor my single family homes, each one average about $500,000. So it's really, this is where it starts to compound. And that's how I built up my $6.6 million net worth over time and fast, because I've had real estate that appreciated naturally. I've owned real estate that I forced appreciation on, and I bought it right with my multifamily. And I've had losses along the way. I lost $100K on my mobile home park, but I could take the hit. I lost money on a drop shipping business, but I could take the hit. I lost money on a pharmacy I invested in and owned, but I could take the hit. And I can only afford to invest in all these assets because I kept my expenses low and still continue to keep my expenses low. Like even today, like right now, I'm grossing 50K a month. Let's just say net cash flow is 10K a month average. My take-home W-2 job is 12K a month after maxing out 401ks and IRAs. And despite that, if you exclude my mortgage, so my mortgage is about $3,700 a month is my portion. And in terms of my living expense, I probably spend maybe $1,500, at most $2,000 on myself personally. So I'm just spending, let's just call it $6,000 a month. So if you exclude the housing expense on me personally, maybe $2,000, but $6,000 a month. And if you look at it, I'm taking home, my W-2 is 12K plus 10K. So I make 26K. So I'm living off of, like, if you factor my mortgage, 25% of my income. And in California, because it's more expensive here, people are living off 50, 60, 70% of their total income. So there's either two ways to skin the cat. Either increase your income and decrease your expense. And I recommend you do both. So that's another mindset shift that I had, is you just have to buy assets and limit liabilities. What are liabilities? Credit card debt, student loans, unfortunately. I've had a lot. Car loans. So another thing that I've done to help me get to this position and save money is, like, just have paid off cars. Like, you can buy a used Toyota Honda for like 3K, buy it cash, and then it's low maintenance, cheap to maintain, and drive that as you build up your wealth. And once you built up your wealth and built up your net worth goal, then you can buy your nice car. That's when I got my Tesla, when my BMW broke down after like driving it for 10 years and 150K miles. So that's really another mindset shift I have to do, is, buy assets, not liabilities. So know what your liabilities are and then buy more assets. So for me, my assets, once again, index funds, single family home real estate, and multifamily real estate. Those are my three that I chose to invest into assets. And, and a primary residence is not considered an asset technically because it's putting money out of your pocket. But if you hold on to it long term and you have a place to live and, you're not in an expensive market, then by all means, you can get a single family home that you live in. So that's another kind of mindset shift is, focus on assets, limit liabilities, and then let your assets pay for your lifestyle, let your assets pay for your liabilities. So if I cash flow $10K a month, technically that cash flow can cover my mortgage that I'm living at right now. So I'm living at home for free. And whatever money I make from a W-2, I can spend. So that's another way to think of it. Like, okay, buy the asset first that gives you the cash flow to buy your liability. If I want a nice Audi R8 and let's say it costs $2,000 a month to lease it, then maybe I need to buy an apartment that cash flow is $2,000 a month so that it can cover the car payment. So if you think that way, that's how you build up your assets as well. Another thing that I realized as I built wealth is time is very valuable. So use your time accordingly. Like the only asset that's scarce is time because you're only guaranteed X number of years. You're not guaranteed to even live to 85. And how you spend your time or choose to waste your time, you can't get that back. So as you become richer, you start to use your money to buy back your time. So what does that look like? So if let's say you clean your house once a week, well, maybe you can pay a maid to clean your house every 2 weeks, and maybe it's $200 every 2 weeks, so $400 a month. But if you have enough assets or make money that covers it, then you could technically pay a maid. They can clean your house, and you can reallocate that time to, spending time with your friends, family, or resting, or making more money. So as I hit retirement and, fat fire, yes, I probably will invest in a maid once I have kids and all that, to come to my house and clean it every 2 weeks. If you don't like grocery shopping, there's a lot Walmart Plus has a delivery service where you just order on an app to deliver it to your house. Or you can order on Costco and they can deliver it to your house. So you can shave off time by not going to grocery stores. So you pay for these conveniences. If you don't want to go to pick some food up, you can do Uber Eats. But like I said, you have to have the assets that you built up that can cover this first before you start buying back your time. So in the beginning, money is more valuable than your time. So you're spending time to make money. But as you become richer, time is more valuable than your money. So it's a different mindset. So at that point, that's when you pivot and you try to buy back your time. So that's what I would do. I would pay for conveniences. I would pay to make my life easier so I can reallocate my time to things I want to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you like to clean your house and that's therapeutic for you, then clean your house. But for me, I don't really care to clean my house. And I even kind of automate. I have a Roomba now, so it vacuums for me 3 times a week and I don't have to vacuum it. So it's just little things like that kind of add up over time. So as I built wealth and once you made it, I start to buy back my time. So another thing that I've learned as I've built up my wealth and kind of a mindset shift that I made is that, as you build wealth and you're richer, you're going to lose friends. These could have been friends that you had for a long time in high school, middle school, elementary school, college. But as you build wealth, people start to get jealous, especially when you start talking about it. So just know it comes with it. It shows that you're successful when you start to lose friends. And it's not against you, but people just feel bad because, you came from the same place. You came from the same high school. You came from the same middle school. You came from the same college. But all of a sudden your net worth $6 million and they're struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, still renting, trying to make ends meet. And it doesn't make them feel good if you talk about your wealth. So that comes with the territory, right? So that's why you have to not get rid of your old friends, but upgrade your friends and find a new group of friends that you can talk to and that are kind of on your level. So that's another thing that I learned. You have to kind of upgrade your friends as you climb up the net worth and the wealth ladder. Another thing that I've kind of learned as I built wealth is that after you hit a certain point, what I have hit, getting more wealth doesn't make you any happier. It's more about lifestyle choices. So you do things because you want to do it. If I want to, YouTube, I don't make much money from YouTube. Coaching, mentorship is where I make most of my money, but even then it pales in comparison compared to my real estate, compared to my W-2 job. But I actually enjoy teaching people and I enjoy to share what I learned so others can learn from me. And I wish I had that opportunity to learn from somebody ahead of me. That's why I like to share. So that's why I continue making my videos despite burning myself out, despite being busy about things, because it's just very fun for me to do it. And I like to do it. So as you build more wealth, as you become richer, you just spend your time doing things that you want to do. What, regardless that makes you money. Like, yes, one day could YouTube make me a lot of money? Could coaching and mentorship make me a lot of money? Yes, it can, but I'm not banking on it. And I don't need to. I'm just doing it because I want to. So it's another mindset shift, is like W2. Like, let's be honest. Like, if you didn't have to work at your job, would you go to your job? I feel like most people would say no. Some people might say yes. But majority would say, no, if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't show up to work. So, but once you hit that money, like for me, at this point, I don't have to work, to be honest. It makes sense for me to work a few more years if I really want to optimize my finances. But if I didn't need to work, I had to sell some assets, which I'm not ready to yet. But it's freeing to know that, like, I'm choosing to go to work, not because I have to go to work. So that gives you a sense of freedom in a way. But anyways, I want to kind of give a talk about how my mindset changed as I built wealth. Hopefully you learned a few nuggets that you can apply to your life. Hopefully you have some questions, let me know. If you want to learn to buy multifamily real estate, some guidance, check out the mentorship program down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.